Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer. Today we're going to do a review for Tarzan VR, a game released on the Steam store November 17th, 2020 by developers Stonepunk Studios. It normally retails for $14.99. I got a free Steam key through the Steam Curator Connect program to review this game. It's available for the Valve Index, HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, and Windows Mixed Reality. And yes, this is officially licensed Tarzan from Edgar Rice Burroughs, and it has a lot of old-time recordings from Tarzan, so it really gives it that authentic sound for that ultimate nostalgia trip back in time through the magic of virtual reality. I would call Tarzan VR an action-adventure game. I know that's a pretty generic label, but basically you're going to be walking from point A to point B, climbing, swimming, swinging, and then there's just some very basic interactions. The combat here is very simple. So I should mention that with Tarzan VR, you are getting the first issue, the first chapter, but you don't get the second or third chapter unless you pay for that DLC. I went ahead and I bought the second chapter DLC after getting a free Steam key for the main game. I wanted to support the developer. I enjoyed the game. However, I will say it is pretty expensive for what's there. However, you do have very high production values, obviously getting the license for Tarzan, but unfortunately the first chapter only has melee combat, and you're either using your fist or you're using an axe. You can also pick up some special weapons. I know you can pick up a bat. There might be some other hidden weapons, but I believe they're all melee focused. And while I did enjoy Tarzan VR overall, and I do think it is worth it, there are some negatives about Tarzan VR that you should be aware of, and one of them is just combat's a little too simple, and a lot of the VR interactions are also a bit simple. There's also not a lot of content. It took me about an hour to finish the first episode, and that's with me exploring around the island even before starting the first episode. And then the DLC, the second chapter, it took me about 30 minutes to complete, so there really isn't a lot of content here. Tarzan VR is running on the Unity engine on my RTX 3080 at the highest graphical settings. For everything, I was getting anywhere from 45 frames per second to 70 frames per second. However, once I lowered the rendering scale to 1.3 from 1.5, I was getting a steady 90 frames per second on the Oculus Quest 2 with the Oculus Link cable. You do have full locomotion and smooth and snap turning options, as well as some comfort options as well. Now you do have the option to use arm swing locomotion for sprint. However, you can just make it button push only, and I preferred that. I thought that the swinging mechanic worked better with the button press to sprint versus using arm swing and then trying to swing upon the vines. It just seemed to be a smoother operation with the button press for sprinting. And there's also some climbing involved, but you actually don't do a whole lot of climbing in this game. It kind of tells you can climb up trees to get bananas, but other than that, there really is no reason to climb trees, and you really won't be climbing all that much, especially in the first episode. Now, in the second episode, there is a section there where you do have to climb to progress through the story. But in the first episode, other than climbing to get the bananas, I don't think you have to climb for any other reason. And you can also totally swim in the first episode. It's totally optional, and you'll see in the video here that I do go underwater and I do go after the crocodile. But that's totally optional, but I do recommend it because it is pretty cool to do that. It's one of the best parts of the game. But other than the island area, that's the starter area where you can just explore, there really is not that much of a reason to be swimming around in the first chapter. Probably the most surprising thing about Tarzan VR is that the art style really looks great in this game. It has a nice cel-shaded comic book style that just looks wonderful, and it's really a joy to be swinging around this jungle and to explore around this jungle. That's really the best part of this game. And it really does look a lot better than the store page video. Once you're there in VR, you can see how special this game looks. And again, it's got all those little nice nostalgic touches with original sounds, from the show, and it just makes it feel like you're inside a comic book come to life, where you're Tarzan and you're king of the jungle and you're swinging around your domain trying to rescue Jane, who's been kidnapped by these jungle terrorists, whatever they are, and also helping your jungle friends. Now, I did not experience any serious bugs or errors, but I did notice some problems with the enemy AI. They sometimes seem like they didn't really want to fight you, which seemed odd because most of the time they were pretty aggressive, and you just have to get in there and pound away, grab them and punch them out. It's pretty simple combat, but definitely the AI could be a little bit more consistent, because right now it seems like it's a little suspect, just to put it a little mildly. Outside of the story, you do have the main island starter area where you can explore around, and that's fun, and it has a nice detail overall. You'll see like turtles. I wish you could pick them up, and you'll have some collectibles you can find, like records. You can also get those from the main missions. Now, in the second episode, you can use a slingshot, and I believe the mechanic for that can be improved. Right now it just doesn't feel all that great using the slingshot, and I'm definitely looking forward to the third episode where they include the bow and arrow. But again, the bow and arrow has to feel right, it has to have a good mechanic towards it, because that's the one thing where this game is really lacking. It's just the combat just needs to be more fluid, more polished, and just have a little bit more depth to it in order to make it something interesting, something a lot more fun than it is right now. Right now, really the best part about this game is just the exploration part, where you're swinging around, where you can climb trees, where you can swim underwater, but the actual combat elements just aren't that great. Even using the zip line here wasn't all that wonderful compared to other experiences. Overall, if I have to rate Tarzan VR, and I'm going to give two different ratings, one just for the first chapter and then another one including the second chapter. If I have to rate it, just the first chapter, I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. There's a lot to like here. It's a very beautiful looking game. It is fun swinging around the jungle. It's very immersive being in this comic book world. It's a great production of Tarzan. However, the gameplay elements here just need to be better for it to really stand out from the crowd and just be something better than just a little bit better than average. And as far as the second chapter, I liked it more than the first chapter, but the slingshot needs a rework so that it can be more satisfying using it. And also, it's just kind of way too short. I mean, the first episode wasn't long, but it seemed like the second episode was even shorter than the first. So it definitely needs more content in there, as well as just an improvement to the slingshot mechanic. Even though overall, I like the game level design of the second chapter a lot more than the first. So as far as the second chapter, I would give it a 6 out of 10, and that's mostly just based on the limited content versus the first chapter especially. Anyways, I'm Fast Lawyer. If you liked my review, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, please have a wonderful day. Goodbye.